G'day. Welcome back to our series Investigating Jesus, where we are looking together at that most extraordinary of men, Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Matthew writing in Matthew chapter 4 verse 18 to 22. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will make you fishers of men." At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James son of Zebedee and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing the nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. I wonder if you know who Jesus' disciples were. And there are three main lists of disciples: Matthew chapter 10, verses 1 to 4, Mark chapter 3, verses 13 to 19, and Luke chapter 6, verses 12 to 16, who were chosen near the start of Jesus' ministry. The Gospel of John offers no comprehensive list, but does refer to them often as the 12, John 6 verse 67, John 6 verse 70, and John 6 verse 71. Firstly, there was Andrew. He was a fisherman from Bethsaida, Matthew 4 verse 18. It was he who introduced his brother Simon Peter to Jesus, John 1 verse 40 to 42. He was a disciple of John the Baptist. Then there was Bartholomew. He was the son of Talemai, and possibly was also called Nathaniel, John 1 verse 45. And then there was James. He was the son of Alphaeus. He was also known as James the Less, Mark 15 verse 40, or James the Just. He would later be the leader of the church in Jerusalem. Then there was James and John, the sons of Zebedee. Both were fishermen, Matthew 4 verse 21, Luke 5 verse 1 to 11. And Jesus called them the son of Boanerges, or sons of thunder, Mark 3 verse 17. John is also known as the disciple whom Jesus loved, John 13 verse 23, John 19 verse 26, and John 21 verse 7 and 20. Then there was Judas Iscariot, Luke 6 verse 13 and 16. He was the son of Simon, John 6 verse 71. He was the disciple who betrayed Jesus with a kiss, Matthew 26 verse 14 to 16, and was replaced after the resurrection by Matthias, Acts 1 verse 26. Then there was Matthew. He was a tax collector for the Romans, Matthew 9 verse 9, and also the son of Alphaeus, Mark 2 verse 14. He also authored the Gospel by the same name. Then Philip from Bethsaida, John 1 verse 44, John 12 verse 21. Notably, it was he who introduced Greeks to Jesus, John 12 verse 20 to 22. Simon, also known as Simon the Zealot, Matthew 10 verse 4, and possibly from Jerusalem. Then another Simon, the brother of Andrew, and also an uneducated fisherman from Bethsaida, Matthew 4 verse 18 and Acts 4 verse 13. Later he was renamed Peter by Jesus, John 1 verse 42, and would later lead the disciples, Acts 1 verse 15 to 26. He wrote two books of the New Testament, known simply as 1 Peter and 2 Peter. Then there was Thaddeus, listed as a disciple in Mark 3 verse 18, and also known as Alphaeus, Matthew 10 verse 3, and Judas' brother of James, Luke 6 verse 16. And finally there was Thomas, also known as Judas Thomas Didymus, John 11 verse 16, John 20 verse 24, John 21 verse 2. And how were the disciples chosen? In the time of the New Testament, it was the usual practice for a disciple to take the initiative and choose his master, and then voluntarily join that school. However, in reverse of this practice, Jesus himself chose those who were to follow him by issuing a command, similar to "Come, follow me," of Matthew 4 verse 18 to 22, Matthew 16 verse 24, Matthew 19 verse 21, Mark 1 verse 17, Mark 8 verse 34, Mark 10 verse 21, Luke 9 verse 23, and Luke 18 verse 22. Jesus chose them after a night of prayer, and they were given to him by God. John 17 verse 9. The reason that God gave them to him as his disciples was so that they would produce fruit for God's kingdom. John 15 verse 16. Jesus also placed some demands on those who wanted to follow him. For some, these demands proved too much, so they went away, like the rich young ruler of Matthew 19 verse 16 to 22. Others who were initially attracted to Jesus left saying, "This is a hard teaching. Who can accept it?" John 6 verse 60.
More next week. Thank you for visiting Partakers. Come back every day to www.partakers.co.uk, where there is something to help you as a Christian disciple in the 21st century. See you later.